Welcome to Real Talk with Reginald D. So glad you stopped by to hang out with me for a minute. We're going to keep talking about being an effective leader. I'm going to call it part 2. You know, a leader is only as good as their people. An effective leader has talented people on their teams to help take the assignment to the next level. You do that by creating and attracting great talent. Let's look at why effective leadership is so important. Leaders have influence. They have serious influence over the people they are leading. You have to remember that your influence can have a serious impact on your people or your team, either in a positive way or a negative way. That's critical for you to know as a leader. If you are a reckless leader, then you need to rethink your role before you end up hurting your team. Leaders set the tone for their people. They put them in the best position to be successful. Effective leaders manage the pace of the mission. The reason you manage and you set the pace is because you are protecting your people or your team from getting burnt out. Because if they burn out on you, then they won't be effective as they should be. And oftentimes that leads to discouragement. And eventually people will quit on you. As an effective leader, you have to protect your people's heart and their passion. You have to remove unnecessary challenges and pains from your team when trying to achieve a goal. Leaders are result driven. I get that. But you must understand that results with unnecessary pains is not worth celebrating. As a leader, the top golden rule is to keep people inspired. Make people feel good about themselves. Make them feel like they can accomplish anything they are set out to do. Continue to encourage them and then challenge them. Now, it's critical that you give encouragement with the challenge, because if you challenge your people without encouragement, then it will start to appear as if you are giving orders. Now you're looking like a boss instead of a leader. Leaders, listen to your people. Listen to their ideas. Let them be a voice. Being heard and being a part of something makes people feel appreciated and empowered. They need that from you as a leader. Now, I remember one day, somebody came into my office and they were talking about something that they were passionate about. But to me, what he was saying didn't really make any sense. And I cut him off. And I said, oh, so you want to do A, B, C, and D, basically. He looked at me and he said, whatever, man. He walked out. He came back about 2 minutes later and said that basically I hit him in his gut. I hurt him by not listening to him. I apologize for it, and that's what we do as leaders. And I sat down. I said, hey, let me hear you all the way. I cut him off. I should never have done that. Now, I know that a leader, and most leaders, they lead differently. But if there's one universal quality that the best leaders share, it's this. They lead by example. If you want to create a culture of honesty with your team, then you're going to have to cultivate honesty in yourself. If you want your team to be passionate, then as a leader, bring passion with you every day. Leaders have a trickle-down effect on their people and their team. If you want greatness, then you got to be great. If you're lazy and slack, then your people and your team will be lazy and slack, because that's all they see is you and your ways. So whatever it is you want to inspire your team. Start being an example of it. Remember this: leading by example is how you become a role model. Now, as an effective leader, you have to understand your impact. You have to understand that you are a major inspiration in a person's life, both at work and at home. How they are treated, how your people are treated at work is going to affect how they are at home or in their personal life, and vice versa. If you are the head of your household, which is a leader, the way you treat your people at home will affect the way they perform at work or school. As a leader, you must understand the impact your leadership has on your team and the responsibility that comes with it. Effective leaders don't damage people, they repair people. They take what somebody else did to them and begin to nurture and encourage and build up their team to flourish. Effective leaders don't damage people, they repair damaged people. Look, there are two ways to build the biggest building. You can build the biggest building, or you can tear down everyone else's building. Become the type of leader that people will follow, even if you had no title or a position. Now, as a leader, you must embrace the truth. You can't be a great leader and a liar at the same time. Dishonesty will breed dishonesty. And the vision and the purpose will suffer because of that. As a leader, you can't create a dishonest culture in your team. You can prevent this by being honest with yourself from the beginning. You have to make telling the truth non-negotiable. Now, never compromise your integrity. Do what you say you are going to do. Let's look at it like this. If you tell your team that y'all are going to raise some money to buy food for the hungry, and then y'all ended up going out here raising all of this money for this cause, then the leader turns around and sells the food to the people instead of giving it to them. See, that's when a leader's integrity and credibility will be tarnished and destroyed. Never underestimate the power of personal integrity. You got to do everything right. As an effective leader, you have to fix what you can control and let go of the rest. Being an effective leader is not about making everything perfect. It's about figuring out where you and your team can have the most impact and focus on those things. Do not combine what you can have impact on with what you can't have impact on. It will overload your team, lessen the pressure by removing the unnecessary and focus on the necessary. It will allow your team to be more focused and more impactful. As leader, you should remember this prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and give me the courage to change the things I can, and give me the wisdom to know the difference. Remember, leaders, focus on where you can have a positive impact and let go of what you can't control, and make sure you know the difference. Now, cater your leadership style to your team. You got to know this and got to understand this. If you want to elevate your people of your team, you need to be willing and able to adjust your leadership style. You have to remember that some people don't respond well with the hands-on approach. So let them do things their own way and make yourself available if need be. Then you may have another team member that responds well with the hands-on approach because they may struggle to get things done and needs more structure and guidance. Now, keep in mind, they are both valuable. But the most valuable thing is that it forces you to change up your leadership style and not be one dimensional. It will also make your team more successful when they are getting the type of leadership they need. As an effective leader, you always put people first. It's not about you. It's about your people. Effective leaders knows how to treat their people. It burns me up to see leaders fail to treat people equally. Now, most don't do it on purpose. They are just not in tune like everybody else. But it looks bad as a leader. Listen, the person that's the custodian going around cleaning the bathrooms is just as important than the CEO. The person up front answering the phone calls and getting all the headache calls, it just as important as the CEO. It burns me up to see leaders walk past them and don't say simple like good morning. Do you know if you speak to them and acknowledge them, how that will make them feel? They already cleaned the bathrooms and they already had a job that's probably paying less than any other job in the building. The least you can do is speak to them. Sit down, have a cup of coffee with them, take them to lunch, learn about them, learn about their families, and make sure you remember their name and call them by their name every time you see them. If you haven't seen them in a couple of days, go look for them. And just tell them that you're checking on them, that you haven't seen them in a few days. If you're having a luncheon or something like that with your team, invite them in. I was at this meeting one time in corporate, and we had a new president. I never met the president of the company before in my life. He came up to me and he started talking to me. Well, there was an investor that came and just interrupted our conversation. And I was willing to walk away because I'm pretty sure they had more to talk about than what him and I was going to talk about. But he stopped that investor and he said, I will get back with you in a few minutes. Let me get finished talking to him. Do you know what that did to me? To this day, that stuck with me. He was more concerned about my name instead of what the investor was going to talk about. Real leaders value people, no matter where they come from or their status. I want you to remember this as leaders. Be mindful how you treat people. They may not look like it, but they very well could be the angel that God is trying to put in your life. Remember that as a leader. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Reginald D. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join us every Tuesday for new episodes on life, spirituality, and leadership development. See you next Tuesday.